Your tax dollars footing the bill for someone's bonus. Following the money to show you how that managed to happen in Georgia.
She thought her religious attire would shatter her Olympic dream, but a Metro woman has new hope tonight.
And is this the next big political scandal? Tonight, a devastating blow to Newt Gingrich's run for the White House.
Broadcasting in high definition, 11 Alive News at 11 starts now.
They serve and sacrifice, no questions asked. And tonight, new attempts to make sure our servicemen and women get all that they deserve. In just 24 hours, one simple complaint into our newsroom created big changes. It all started when Kathy from Arizona emailed us on Tuesday, simply saying U.S. soldiers treated badly by Delta Airlines. Then we saw this.
We had actually ended up paying out of pocket our own money to allow that fourth bag to be taken on the plane.
How much you pay?
$200.
Bill Liss and the help desk worked the phones to get in touch with Delta that same day. But you did the rest. Your tweets, Facebook messages filled with complaints and concern paid off. In mere hours, not only did Delta apologize, but increase the free checked bag allowance for military. But the best part is the chain reaction created is growing.
In the 48 hours since we first broke this story and you reacted to it on our Facebook page and on Twitter, the major airlines of the United States have blinked. Latest in, AirTran, now giving unlimited baggage to military personnel traveling on orders. Just a few moments after that, U.S. Airways came in, matching Delta with 4 free bags for any military traveling on orders. Last night, United Continental and American both matched. American took it one step further, not 4 bags, but 5. For members of the military and their families, one less thing they have to worry about. Reporting from Hartsfield-Jackson, Bill Liss, 11 Alive News.
We have found some businesses doing some positive things for our soldiers. You know, for days, we've been focusing on our military men and women and how they have been treated as opposed to how they deserve to be treated once they come back in this country from deployment. And we have been swamped on our Facebook page from people telling us about discounts for military men and women and their families. Steve Hamilton writes, I always give military discounts for LASIK surgery. In fact, there have been comments related to not only these kinds of businesses, but Delta as well. One flight attendant writes, as a flight crew member of Delta Airlines, I just want to say anytime there are servicemen and women on my flight, I go out of my way to give them free food, drinks, etc. I have seen this consistently done at Delta and feel sad the whole airline is being judged. In fact, if you want to know where all the discounts are and how you can save if you're a military family or you want to pass it along to some of your friends, check out this website. It's called Gift Card Grannies, and they have compiled a list of ways to save for veterans and their families and those who stand behind the families protecting our nation.
Tonight, Newt Gingrich says via Facebook that he is still in the race for president. That's despite the mass defection of a half dozen of his top staffers. Now, the campaign's been dancing on 2 left feet from the beginning, but veterans on the staff finally had enough, culminating today in what one person on Twitter called a mutiny. When Newt Gingrich was in Macon for the state GOP convention, his longtime campaign spokesman, Rick Tyler, seen here on the right, was never more than a half step away to fend off reporters and point out the big money in the room. Well, tonight, Tyler and a half dozen top advisors, including campaign manager Rob Johnson and honorary co-chair, former Governor Sonny Perdue, have all defected, leaving Team Gingrich with almost no team at all.
A lot of the damage is done. I frankly don't know how he becomes relevant at this point.
Charlie Harper is the editor of The Peach Pundit, the insider's guide to Georgia politics. He says Gingrich has been dogged by blunders and missteps that came early and often, including an ill-timed vacation at the height of the spring political cycle.
Getting out of the way for a little while and out of the spotlight after a bunch of self-inflicted wounds, not a bad idea. I'm not sure a Mediterranean cruise was the way to get out of the spotlight. But when you get back from vacation and find out you have no staff, it's a bad day.
A bad day that got worse when Sonny Perdue jumped ship, likely taking others with him.
So is he able to stop the bleeding? Do some of his closer supporters stand up and defend him and say we're still with him? I understand he's going to attempt to relaunch or rebrand his campaign in California. Los Angeles, not exactly a stronghold or Republican bastion, but it is a great place if you're into alternative realities, and maybe that's where he needs to be right now.
Ouch. To that end, Gingrich says his campaign will indeed begin anew. That's a quote in Los Angeles on Sunday. What that means, nobody knows just yet. Many think any schism of his support will in fact be a windfall for former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty. Gingrich is still expected to be at the New Hampshire debate on Monday.
Well, Georgia is now linked to another Anthony Weiner Twitter scandal. First, the New York congressman admitted to sexting numerous women. Now we know one of those 5 women lives in Athens. Tracy Nobles coaches a summer cheerleading camp at the YMCO there. Her alleged involvement with the congressman became public when Nobles says that her roommate found messages between the two on Nobles' Facebook account and emailed them to the Las Vegas Sun newspaper.
Cut 464 jobs and $70 million. That is the dilemma Piedmont healthcare systems finds itself in tonight. Officials say the cuts are necessary because Medicare changes, new state taxes, along with the tough economy, have burdened the system's 7 organization.
2 sets of parents lost their sons, and tonight they are filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. The boys drowned in a Gwinnett County pond last year, and now the families claim firefighters were negligent. Here's 11 Alive's Devin Feely.
Break. Heidi and Jay Bullock lost their baby.
There was an accident at the pond.
Carmen Amos Mathurin lost their firstborn.
I was very upset and angry and everything.
Both sets of parents say it's not just the grief. It's the belief that their boys could have been, should have been saved that's motivated them to file a $20 million lawsuit against the Gwinnett County Fire Department and their own neighborhood association.
It's just beyond me to imagine how a human being could know that another human being's life was in danger, and for the sake of following protocol, they didn't help.
13-year-old Marvins Mathurin and 14-year-old Jacob Bullock were like many boys their age, athletic, full of energy, and eager for adventure. But that boyish daring would get them into trouble in January of 2010, when the boys ventured out onto a partially frozen pond in the center of their Decula subdivision. Marvins would fall through the ice and never resurface. Jacob went in to rescue him.
I ran out with the full intent of doing something. I had floats with me.
Neighbors watched Jacob struggling to stay afloat in the frigid waters, slipping below the surface moments before firefighters arrived. The lawsuit filed by attorney Keegan Federal alleges firefighters were negligent, standing idly at the water's edge for upwards of 45 minutes, waiting for a boat and other equipment to arrive. Precious time the drowning boys simply did not have.
I said, panic-stricken, why isn't anybody in the water? Why aren't you in the water? And I didn't get an answer.
The boys' parents say they want to spare other parents the measureless heartbreak they've felt for the past year and a half. In Gwinnett County, Devin Feely for 11 Alive.
Good news from your children's classroom. Students have performed better on the CRCT for the 3rd year in a row. The annual test for elementary children covers math, reading, English language, arts, science, and social studies.
Meantime, students at 2 new charter schools in Georgia will get to attend their schools after all this fall. The recent Georgia Supreme Court ruling striking down the State Charter School Commission had put the brakes on the opening of 16 new charter schools next fall. Well, now the State Board of Education has voted to grant at least 2 of those schools a special status. The Odyssey School and Georgia Cyber Academy will open as scheduled in August. The other 14 charter schools will get that same option if their local school systems turn down their petitions.
Well, this is how I always dress.
This Atlanta woman of tiny stature and soft voice just received some good news. Her name is Kulsum Abdullah, possibly the only Muslim woman in the world known to be aspiring to compete in Olympics class weightlifting so far. And she just found out that the International Weightlifting Federation has agreed to her request to consider whether to allow weightlifters to compete with their heads, arms, and legs covered, instead of having to wear uniforms that expose their heads, arms, and legs.
The fact that it's going to even be discussed, I think that's really great. I'm happy about that, and I think it gives me some hope.
She just wants to compete.
Abdullah's trainer, Travis Cooper, says the current rule that requires exposed elbows and knees helps judges make sure competitors are properly completing their lifts. But he says tight-fitting sleeves and leg wear should allow judges to do that.
It's kind of an outdated rule.
As it is, Abdullah cannot compete in any Olympics-sanctioned events in her uniform unless the rule on uniforms is changed, even though she is qualified for her first nationals competition next month.
You know, I'm not really wanting to force things. If I can't, they say no, you know, I won't go. I just thought I would just try. It would be nice, but if not, I mean, I would still practice the sport.
She will find out at the end of this month. In Northwest Atlanta, John Sherrick, 11 Alive News.
Oh, one of the 1,000 Americans forcibly sterilized. Tonight, a story that proves how far our country has come in just one generation.
And tax dollars and bonuses, it's an equation that really doesn't add up. Following your money tonight to see what former Georgia lawmaker is under fire.
Put your smartphone to work at the airport and save money. That's coming up in Ways to Save.
Thousands of tax dollars spent on bonuses, and this is one of those that will make you sit back and think.
A member of Congress voted out of office is accused of a huge splurge. 11 Alive's Doug Richards learns it adds up to $400,000.
As a member of Congress, Jim Marshall ran a frugal congressional office. His staff payroll was among the lowest, according to a watchdog site called Legistorm. But after Marshall lost his re-election bid in November to Republican Austin Scott, the Macon Democrat got very generous with taxpayer money. Legistorm's analysis shows that Marshall paid bonuses to his staff totaling more than $464,000, far and away the biggest bonus paid to staff by a departing member of Congress, according to Legistorm. We went to Marshall's home in Macon. Nobody answered. We left a note requesting comment, but haven't gotten a response. Congressional bonuses are not uncommon. Members of Congress are given an allowance for travel and staff expenses, and many members of Congress, like Jim Marshall, spend less than the allowance, giving them credibility with taxpayers at election time. But when those members of Congress leave office, regardless of their politics, frequently the taxpayer-funded floodgates open. Congressman John Linder was a longtime champion of frugal government. But Legistorm's data shows Linder nearly doubled his staff's salary in the final 3 months of his term, an uptick of more than $170,000. Linder's former spokeswoman tells us Linder still returned over $200,000 to the House at the end of his term last year. And Legistorm reports that even after paying all those bonuses, Jim Marshall returned about $80,000 unspent dollars to the U.S. Treasury. Doug Richards, 11 Alive News.
It is a shocking yet very real part of American history. For 4 decades, the state of North Carolina and others, including Georgia, prevented thousands of people from having children by sterilizing them. Tonight, Jay Watson has the story of Elaine Riddick, who lost everything even before she had the chance to grow up, and who is finally telling her story to the world.
It was 8 children sleeping in one little full-size bed.
There are no photos to tell the story of Elaine Riddick's North Carolina childhood. No photos because there was no one to care.
From 11 Alive, you're entering the weather information zone. The Wiz, home of the Wizometer.
Paul Ossmann with you in the weather information zone. Good to see the rain returning across the state. A lot of that is now weakened and moved out, but we'll get our fair share of those spotty showers again for tomorrow. Outside right now, partly cloudy skies, really comfortable. A lot of the cooler air that was filtered in from the thunderstorms kind of spread out across the city, made it very comfortable to be outside this evening with temperatures generally in the lower 70s across the board instead of the mid to upper 80s. Let's check out the rain right now, and you can see those spotty showers still out there, mostly well south in the Macon area, Thomaston area, some playing out in Carroll County.
Well, as far as the Braves are concerned, ho-hum another night, another one-run game. Let's take a look at it down in Florida tonight against the Marlins. Scoreless in the 6th at Florida, and Alex Gonzalez doubled to left center.
Slight risk of a shower for the next few days. Temperatures still in the 90s, lows in the 70s.
An endless loop of 90s.
It seems like that, doesn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
All right, that is it for us. We want to thank you for joining us. Have a good night, a great tomorrow, everybody. The Tonight Show is coming up next.